who is one of the chief operators in the history department of our great public library here on the third floor. And Chet, it's just a real pleasure to have you here, and it's important that we do things like this, you know, and now your family
Sure it is.
You and your family will get a DVD, and they're going to send a copy to the Library of Congress in Washington and keep a copy here. So
That's great.
you're going to be on record for history. You're in the archives. Well, CB, you like to be called that, do you?
Yeah,
Okay.
fine.
Citizens Band, huh? So, where were you born, Chet?
I was born in Melbourne, Kentucky.
Northern Kentucky. What town?
Melbourne.
Melbourne. Oh, just across the river.
Just
here.
across the
Yeah,
river.
Right, right.
And
And where did you go to elementary school?
I went to a little two-room school down on 4 and 12 Mile in Campbell County,
How about that?
and graduated from there and left there and went to Campbell County High
Campbell County High.
in Ellington.
Right.
Graduated from there, and
What year were you born?
I was born in 24.
24.
23.
23. And did you have a big family or a little family
I
or
had
what?
3 brothers and 2 sisters. 6 of us.
Wonderful. Great. Well, you had a
I'm
busy...
next to the oldest, but I am the oldest now. My sister died
Oh,
uh,
I'm sorry.
about 4 or 5
Yeah.
years ago.
Yeah. You got some brothers left, have you? Wonderful.
2 brothers, or 3 brothers left, and 1 sister.
Well, isn't that, well, you're a very lucky man. That's wonderful. Tell us a little bit about your early days in elementary school. That 2-room schoolhouse, huh?
2-room schoolhouse, and they were 4 grades in each room.
4 in each room.
Yeah, that's the way they taught us, you know what I mean?
Sure.
And I went all 8 years in that school, and then I went to Campbell County in 37, and they didn't do away with that school till 39, I think it was. They moved it and took the kids to Campbell County.
Okay. All
And,
right. Great.
After I graduated from there, that was in 1941, and I went to Automotive High over here at 7th and Broadway
Oh.
and studied the Wright Aeronautical Engine. And in October, they hired us to go to work at Wright's, where GE is now.
Oh, yeah. Right aircraft. huh?
And I worked out there for 18 months before I went into service.
And what were your duties out there at Wright? What did you work on?
I was on the final packing of the engine.
Of
Had
the
to check everything before they went in the crate.
Right, right. That was the Wright engine.
That was a Wright engine.
How about that?
Yep.
Oh my gosh. Well, you've got a real piece of history right there too.
Yeah.
Just the fact that
Yeah.
you were there at Wright, and
Yeah, I have.
I wonder, do you remember how many people they employed out there during the early part of the war? Several thousand, I suppose.
Oh, it was in the thousands.
Huge.
Just huge. They worked 3 shifts.
3 around the clock.
And when I first started out there, we'd go in at night, and if there was nothing on the line, the superintendent would say, well, go hunt a place to sleep. I'll wake you up when one comes, or go to lunch.
Sure,
So
sure.
that's what they did. And when I left out there, they were going 7 days a week, 24 hours a day if you wanted to work.
24/7. How about that? Well, then, when did you? Well, let's go back a little bit now. In high school, did you have any particular interest? Did you have a bent for mechanics or anything like that?
No, not really. Not really.
It just kind of came naturally.
Just kind of came naturally. Well, got to work on stuff once in a while, and then
Yeah.
lawnmower or something like that.
Sure, sure.
But other than that, not really.
But you really had the knack for it,
But
though.
when I got in school there at Wright Aeronautical, why that brought my interest up in airplanes, you know what I mean?
Right, of course.
And I wanted to fly. And when we was going through the draft, why they kept asking me what I wanted in, and I said Army Air Force, Army Air Force. Got to the end of the line, and some sergeant looked at my papers and shoved it over to a Navy guy and says, here's one for you. And I wanted the Air Force.
Right.
And the Navy guy looked at it and says, no, he's got too many teeth, bad teeth.
I'll be darned.
And he turned me down, so I went in the Air Force after all. So,
Well, there were a lot of cases like that, I know,
Yeah.
and fortunately, it was something that made you happy, and
Yeah.
you're proud of that. Well, then, your family and having 3 brothers and 2 sisters, you had a really fun time.
yeah,
through
we
your
had a good
life.
time. We didn't have any money or anything. That was during the Depression.
Depression, you bet.
But we never went hungry, you know what I mean?
No.
We always had a garden and cows and
Sure.
pigs and stuff.
Sure. Well, you know, that was a funny thing. People say, "Oh, the Depression must have been terrible," and of course they see the pictures of the unemployed guys in long lines
Yeah.
and waiting for a handout or something, or trying to get a job. But you know, I grew up in a small agricultural area too, small town, and yeah, we knew it was a depression. We knew
Yeah.
it was tough times, but we did not suffer.
We didn't either.
Because we worked and everybody pitched in. And that carried over, that spirit
Right,
of survival carried through World War II, didn't
that's
it?
right.
You betcha.
Yep.
Well, when you went to write, being a country boy and all of a sudden in the big town and in a big setup like that, what was your feeling about that?
It didn't bother me.
Didn't bother you a bit?
Uh-uh.
Yeah.
I had a lot of friends that was working with us.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We used to
Carpool?
carpool, you know, then.
Sure.
Gas was short then, too.
Oh,
see.
boy.
It was shorter than it is today.
Did you have a B sticker for your car, you know?
Yeah,
You got,
yeah.
because of
yeah. we
the
got
important
gas
work
for it.
that you were doing,
Yeah.
you got a B sticker. Everybody else who didn't had an A sticker,
Yeah.
and that was just a very limiting thing.
So we would carpool to work, you know, and
Sure.
save a little bit. It wasn't the price of gas, it was
Well,
that you couldn't get it, you know what I mean?
15 cents a gallon. Can you believe? I know.
That's a lot of difference from today.
Oh, my goodness, I should say. So how long were you there at Wright Aeronautical?
18 months.
18 months. Well, that's a good stretch. That was a great experience for you too, and knowledge and expanding your ability and so forth. Yeah. So 18 months came, and what happened?
I was drafted.
You were drafted, and that's when you got the Air Corps,
when I got my
Army Air Corps. Good for you. Where were you first sent?
First sent to St. Pete, Florida,
I'll be darned. That's not bad.
tent
duty.
city. That was out in the boondocks, and they had nothing but tents out there.
Really?
Everything you did was in sand,
Oh my
and we had no latrines or nothing, you know, and had pits to go to.
God. Yeah.
And I spent a month in basic training there, and then I went to Biloxi, Mississippi, to B-24 school.
Well, that was the consolidated school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I
Now
spent-
that, you know, we've talked to a lot of fellas. I was in Navy, so this is a little foreign to me, but I've talked to many fellas who said that the B-24, the Liberator, was a kind of a tough plane.
It was.
It was kind of hard to carried a big load, and actually it was bigger than the
Bigger than the 17.
than the
really.
17. Yeah,
Yeah.
right. But what was it about the Liberator that was sort of difficult?
It wasn't as easy to handle, I don't think, as a 17 was.
Yeah.
It had Pratt Whitney engines on it. That didn't make any difference. But the 17 had the right engine on it,
Right.
and I was familiar with that. You know.
Sure.
But other than that, I don't know really
Yeah.
what the difference was.
How much of a crew did the B-24 carry?
Same as the 17.
Same as the 17? About, what, 8?
Let's see, what was it?
Co-pilot, pilot?
There was 4 officers, and then you had radio operator and the engineer, and 2 side pilots and 2 the ball turret and the rear turret.
Okay,
So
about 8. Yeah.
about 8.
Well, that's a good-sized crew.
It
too.
was.
Yeah. I know because we've talked with several fellows who were in B-25s, you know, twin engine, and they had 5.
Yeah,
That was it, you know.
yeah,
Doolittle Raiders, you know, they
Doolittle
had
Raider. Yeah.
5 to a plane. Well, okay, so there you were at Biloxi and you were learning about the B-24. How long were you there? Do you remember about that?
7 months.
7 months. That was hot down there, wasn't
Oh, it was hot.
it? My God, and sticky?
We went to school in the evening, and then we didn't get up till 9 o'clock, and the first thing you did was eat and then have calisthenics. Hot.
In the
It
heat
was
of the day.
hot.
Oh, brother.
Yeah, it was a rough one.
How was the chow?
It wasn't too bad till till I got to, on a Friday they had fish. And they had big mess halls there because they had so many people. And every Friday you got fish. And I didn't particularly like fish.
Yeah.
But the smell made it even worse.
Oh,
You could smell it every place on the base.
good gosh.
And I finally got so I didn't even go to chow for lunch because I knew I was going to be. And I don't particularly care for fish today.
Even now, you haven't overcome that. I know what you mean. Well, in training like that, where you've got some really intensive technical training, did you make any particular friends from other parts of the country, or?
Yeah, but then when you shipped out of there,
Then
you were separated from them, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and
You
yeah,
lost-
it was a kind of a difficult thing, particularly for a young fella. You know,
Yeah.
you'd hang on to somebody as a good friend, and then you'd lose them, and yeah,
Yeah. Part of us, there was a couple of them from Newport that went in with me when I went in and went through basic training with me down there in St. Pete. One of them went to North Carolina, and one of them went to, I believe it was Texas someplace. And I lost friends,
sure.
you know, there. And after the war was over, I got to meet both of them back home again. You know?
Oh, you did.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
One of them went into the carpentry business, and the other one went into hairdressing.
Uh-huh.
And he's got several places, jobs
Yeah.
of
Are they still alive?
still.
Isn't?
No, neither one of them are.
Oh,
They're both
oh,
dead.
they're gone.
They're gone.
Yeah.
EJ Hairdressing over in Highland Heights
Okay.
is one of them.
Right. How about that?
Elmer Wickelhaus and Bob Lang.
I'll be darned. Well, you know, in situations like that, where you're being transferred from one place to another after a short period of time, and you're talking about making friends and then separation and losing them and so forth, it's kind of hard to make a cohesive life,
Yeah.
but at the same time, it was very maturing as well.
Yes,
You were
it was.
growing.
It was.
Yeah,
Yeah.
You weren't just a little high school boy anymore. Yeah, boy, I'll say. Well, then what after Biloxi? 7 months there?
I went to Laredo, Texas for gunnery school,
Laredo, right down on the border.
right on the border. 4 down as you could go. And I spent November and December there, and that's where I started getting airsickness. Because the first plane we flew, a PT-13, And the guns were pointed backwards, you know, the gun, and you were flying backwards.
Yeah.
And as soon as we took off, he gets up like this and dips off like that, and that did it.
You lost it.
I lost it.
Oh, gosh.
And I was first to fire, and we went up 3 at a time, you know. And the pilot radioed back, what's the matter? And I says, I'm sick and I can't get the gun in place. He says, well, we'll peel off and let the others fire and then come back and let you try it. I said, okay. So the others fired, and I finally, you would get up at the end of the slipstream and then it would shove you back. And I kept going further and further and finally got in there. And I think we had 300 rounds, and I think I fired them all at one time. Oh, it was pitiful.
Now, what was the PT-13 like? What kind of
That was
plane?
a two-seated job, which one just for the pilot and the gunner was sitting in the back,
Yeah.
looking at the tail, you know.
Okay, looking aft. Yeah.
It was a
That was a single engine?
single engine.
Single engine.
Mhm.
And that was a trainer, of
Yeah.
course. Yeah, right. Well, and Laredo, there you are down in the, you're really getting your boots wet in the warm climate, weren't
That's
you?
right.
From St. Petersburg to Biloxi to Laredo. Golly
All
Moses.
the time. So I spent November, December in Texas, hotter and blue blazes, you
Yeah.
know. And they gave us a 21-day en route to Salt Lake City, Utah.
Okay.
And I came home. I was home for 12 days, I think. And then went to Salt Lake City. I'll get it right directly.
Salt Lake City. That's a pretty city, wasn't
It
it?
is.
You're
It
beautiful
was.
there in the mountains. And,
But it was in the wintertime, and
oh, gee.
we was in the 6-man tent there,
Oh, man.
and had these little stoves about this big at the bottom and come up to a pipe about like that through the center of the tent. And every morning you'd have to get up and ramrod the soot out of the chimney so we could start the fire and
Oh,
everything.
for gosh sakes.
And I was there for 18 days, and finally came up as a crew going to Ardmore, Oklahoma, B-17.
Ardmore.
And I went to Ardmore.
Was that a big base?
No,
Small.
it was a small base.
Yeah.
Did you ever hear of Gene Autry?
Sure.
The town of Gene Autry?
Yeah.
It was just beyond where Gene Autry was.
I'll be darned.
Yeah.
Sure. Oh, yeah. Gene Autry. Oh, golly. He was one of my heroes. in
Yeah, I know.
Those old movies. You know? He and Tom Mix and all those guys, you know.
Yeah.
Well, so how long you were there at Ardmore?
Almost 2 months.
2 months. Oh, well, yeah.
I was there a little longer than that because I left in May. In May we went into OD's, suntan,
Mm-hmm.
and the crew shipped out before I did. That's where I was grounded for air sickness.
Uh-huh.
And I was put in the ground crew as a mechanic, so they shipped me from there to Harvard, Nebraska as a ground crew mechanic. And
That was no big metropolis either,
no,
was it? Harvard, Nebraska. Golly.
That's a little dot on the map. That's
Yeah.
all it was, you know. But they had a big airfield field,
Uh-huh.
really. And we got out there on about 4 o'clock. I don't know what day it was. In the morning, and we were in suntans, and it was snowing. And we like to froze to death before we got to the barracks and got a blanket or something.
Oh, my gosh.
They come in, got us in the back of the truck, you know, and took us in.
You didn't even have an overcoat.
Didn't even have an overcoat.
Oh, my golly.
So we, I spent from May till November there, and then they told us we were going overseas as a B-29 outfit.
Now, well, that was a pretty long stint then.
Yeah.
That was 5 months.
Yeah.
5 months. Well, and that was all That was all on B-17s?
B-17.
So
Training.
then you were with B-17s from then on, right? Until you got to 29.
I left there.
When you left there?
Yeah, they told it, we went overseas, they told us we were going overseas as a B-29 out there.
Oh, I see.
And the only B-29 that I seen was about 2 weeks before we left, and they brought it and parked it out on one of the parking areas
Yeah.
and put an MP around it, and we couldn't even get close to it. And we went overseas, and when we got over there, they were already planes there, ready to go, you know. And
Now, let's see, let me get the time right on this. Now we're talking, what, 1944? 44. 44. And of course, in your travels around the country, you always went by train.
yeah, every place you went.
And troop trains were always,
Every time they'd pull them off and let the other things go by.
yeah.
I think it took us 4 days to come from Laredo, Texas, to Cincinnati.
4 days.
4 days on train.
Wow.
They would pull us off for every train on the track, I think,
Oh, sure.
to let us
Sure,
go.
had to let the war material.
War material, yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
right. Yeah, well, those train trips, they were something else too,
Oh,
weren't they?
golly. I had to laugh when we left, coming home from Texas, or going to Texas, I guess. Anyway, one of the guys got up to, had part of the stuff up above
Right.
on the train, and that train wobbled along, and he grabbed the ripcord on his parachute. It filled the whole car with the parachute. Oh.
Well, as you saw the B-29 and realized that was going to be
Our baby.
that was your baby, and that was your assignment, and I'll bet you were kind of excited about that, weren't you?
I really was.
Must have been a thrill to see that big lug.
First one,
Good golly.
yeah.
Now they, 4 engines, and did they carry rockets, wing rockets, as well as bombs?
No,
And
they didn't have
no
that.
rockets, but big bomb load, of course.
Yeah.
Huge.
Yeah. A big bomb.
What kind of cannons did you have on that plane?
Nothing but the 50 caliber.
50 caliber.
Mhm.
Okay. And they, the gun turrets and the gunners' turrets on there, what were they, belly turrets and top and underneath, side
The
turrets?
tail.
Tail
The belly
turrets?
gunner and the tail gunner, and
Yeah,
then the top turret. That was the engineers,
right.
and the rest of them were side.
Right. Have you gone to the Air Force Museum in Dayton? And
No, I haven't. Oh, in Dayton, yeah, I've been up there.
been up there at Fairville?
I haven't been to the war one here in Clermont County.
Oh, you haven't?
No.
Got to get you out
I want to
there.
get out there.
Yeah, we got to get you out there. You'll love that Warbird Museum. It's small, but it's growing. I'm very involved with it out there, and you'll love that out there. We've got the B-25, we got the P-51, we've got three or four AT-6 trainers, primary trainers. We have a TBM, which was the Navy's carrier torpedo bomber, and we're working on an F-4U Corsair. Big-
You know, I think I got that wrong. I think it was an AP-6 that we flew in as a gunnery school.
AT-6, yeah.
I think it was.
Yeah, that was the primary trainer, yeah.
I said a P-13. It wasn't, I don't think.
Well, you really must get up to Dayton. You gotta see that Air Force Museum up there. It's just absolutely, you know, they got a B-29 undercover. inside up there.
Yeah.
You can imagine the size of the buildings, plus it truly is a wonderful place. You'd love it, and it's worth going up there and spending a whole day. And they welcome the veterans up there. You know, wear your ribbons and your cap and everything. And they just love to have veterans come in there, and they're so nice. You'd enjoy that very much.
I got a brother-in-law that was in the Air Force in a B-24, and he flew his missions overseas as a belly gunner. And he's at the airport at Clermont County.
Oh, at the Warbird Museum?
Warbird.
Oh, yes.
That's my brother-in-law,
What's his name?
Don Fairbanks.
I've met Don. Yeah.
Well, my
Nice guy.
sister is married to him.
I see. Okay.
And
Yeah, he volunteers out there.
he and my wife graduated from high school together.
I'll be darned.
Don and my wife.
I'll be darned.
So,
Where did your wife go to school?
Anderson,
Oh, yeah.
Mount Washington.
Well, that's really something. Well, you've got a nice connection out there, and but really, don't wait too long. Get up to Fairborn and see that Air Force
I
Museum.
got to.
It'll blow your mind. I mean, it's just so beautiful and so huge, and they have all kinds of programs going on up there. You know, they got videos of war movies and so forth, and got a lot of stuff about, of course, the Doolittle Raiders and all that sort of thing. Well, now, carrying on with your life, there you were, signed to the B-29s, and did you leave from Harvard?
We left from Harvard and then went to Seattle, Washington.
To Seattle.
I left out of Seattle.
Okay.
And we left on a Thursday. Well, we loaded on a Thursday, I guess, and left. And Friday we got down to the coast of California to pick up the convoy we was going with. And they slowed the ship down, and it went this way and this way and this way, and I got sick.
Oh, boy.
And I was sick 12 meals I never ate.
Oh.
We was in Pearl Harbor for 3 days before I,
Oh, golly.
so you know how sick I was.
You lost some weight, too,
I
didn't
lost
you?
some weight. Yes,
Skin and bones. My gosh, well, you must have you, throughout your life, have you had this sickness problem?
all the time, riding in the car.
Motion sickness?
Motion sickness. Yeah.
Oh, my golly.
And
Are you okay when you're driving, though?
yes,
But as a passenger?
faster part of the time I get groggy.
Yep,
Yeah,
yep.
still
I know
do.
what you mean. Well, okay, so there you were in Seattle, and you got on that ship, you got out to Pearl. You didn't get ashore on Pearl?
No.
No,
No.
on the way out.
Then
And
we-
then, now,
And a Weetalk,
Eniwetok in the Marshall Islands. Oh, sure, Marshalls.
and a Weetalk.
Eniwetok, yeah.
We spent 14 days there, and on the 14th day, or 15 days, and the 14th day they let us off, and on the 15th day we moved. And that's when we went to Tinian.
And of course, Tinian was a different kind of an island, you
Yeah,
know.
it
It was a
was.
volcanic island, and of course, Kwajalein was a coral atoll. Yeah, yeah. Okay, so there you were, and that was a bit of a flight. Now, wait a minute, you flew from Pearl to Kwajalein, right?
No, we were on ship.
Oh, you took the ship.
We were on ship for 41 days going over,
Oh, my goodness
Yeah.
sakes. What a trial.
and just packed, you know what I mean?
Sure.
And I had a good buddy from California, and I had, while I was in the SAC, I had this old helmet, you know, steel helmet. It's supposed to have water instead of that. Had it hanging to use,
Oh,
and he would
no.
empty it for me.
Oh, boy.
He never got sick.
Oh my gosh, what a trial. Yeah. Okay, then, but then you flew from Kwajalein to Tinian, right?
No, we
You're still on the ship?
still on the ship.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
You must have thought, will hell ever end?
We'll ever get there.
Oh my goodness. Any funny stories along the way or anything?
No, they were always playing cards or dice or something, you know.
Right.
You'd see, we walked the ship, that's all we had to do, you know what I mean?
Right.
Nothing. And you'd go past and they'd be sitting there playing cards and one guy'd have a whole wad of money, you know. The next trip when you come around, somebody else had that wad of money, you know. It didn't mean anything to them,
Right.
you know what I mean?
Oh, no,
At the time.
no. Were you a card player yourself?
No,
No.
no, I didn't
I
play.
never was either, yeah. Well, so then you got to Tinian, and there you were in your new setting and career and everything. How did you feel about it, and what did you look forward to?
Well, we landed, they had to stay out pretty far, you know what I mean?
Sure,
And we come in on these ducks,
Yeah.
Army ducks, and we down the rope ladder onto those ducks, and the ducks going this way, and us hanging on there with 2 barracks bags, and our 40 carbine, you know, and all that. And when we got to shore, that duck was
sure.
high, you
High
know
out
what
of
I
the
mean?
water,
And
sure.
we threw our barracks bags off and jumped, and it's wonder you didn't break an ankle when you jumped.
Oh, my gosh.
They took us up to a place of nothing but wild cane and wild sweet potatoes, and said, "This is our area."
Wow,
And Saipan, of course, was right 3 miles across from Tinian,
right,
you know what I mean?
right.
And,
Well, had they cleared an area there for you, or it was all brush and rocks? And,
we had putt tents for 6 weeks, I guess, before they ever got a latrine or a shower or anything like that, you know.
Well, now, by that time, Tinian had been secured,
It was secured, I think, in July,
okay?
and we got there in December.
So maybe there were still some Japanese on the
Oh,
island?
there was still a lot of them on there.
Yeah, hiding
In the
and so
caves.
forth.
Yeah, yeah,
And didn't they have civilians there who were
yes.
farmers? I mean, they raised sugar cane and so forth?
But they were in a compound after we got there, you know what I mean?
Had them herded together.
Herded together, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So you didn't see anything like the Japanese who committed suicide, jumped off the cliffs and
No.
so forth. That's good.
Didn't see that.
That's good. So you were, and of course it makes sense. You had to have
Yeah.
the place secured for those
Yeah.
big planes.
Yeah,
Now, I've always wondered about this, and it's wonderful to talk with you about this, about the length of the runway you needed for that B-29. Had to have an extensive runway.
8,500 feet,
8,500 feet.
4 runway.
4 runways of 8,500 feet. My gosh. Well, 8,500 feet,
And then
that's...
they wondered if they'd ever get off when
Oh,
they
yeah.
go down that runway.
That's a mile and a half.
Yeah,
Good gravy.
Yep.
Yeah.
it's a long way.
Did they ever have any crashes on takeoffs, or?
That's the second one they flew, we had one.
Really?
There was a plane went off every 30 seconds.
My God.
And what they did, they held that one up and took a bulldozer out there and scraped the stuff off of the runway and
Make way for the next one.
ready for the next one.
Boy, oh boy, oh boy.
But
Did they have casualties on that plane? Do you
yeah,
know?
they all went with it.
All
Flew with it.
lost.
Yeah.
Terrible. Oh my
We
God.
seen stand in line one day, and here was one coming in, and the first thing you know, you looked up and seen the smoke rolling.
Yeah.
He'd hit the end of the runway instead of getting up high enough to get in.
Oh my golly. Oh gosh. Well, those were terrible, terrible things, and tragedies happen all the time in war, not only on the battlefield, but as you're pointing out. Now, working on a B-29 must have been a lot of fun, though, huh?
That sun was so hot over there, you couldn't touch a plane in the daytime.
Really?
Yeah.
That metal just got
Just
scorching.
scorching.
Wow.
We'd work of a morning and of an evening, you know,
Yeah,
and night
yeah,
if it
yeah.
needed.
So you had, what were your periods of work? 4 on and 4 off, or 8
No.
on? And,
Till we got the job done.
I'll be darned, yeah. When you got the job done, then you got a little relief. Yeah, yeah.
If the plane was flying, we had nothing to do, you know what I mean? Well, when they were on a mission, we'd have to keep somebody there in case they aborted and come back, you know.
Right.
And we would sit there and play cards, or, you know,
Sure.
we had a tent down there at the side of the
Yeah.
revetment.
There was no
On our own, you know.
no bars or anything to
No
go
bars
to
or
over
nothing
there.
Nothing,
God.
no.
Now, that brings up a point, because we've had the pleasure of not only talking to veterans like you who are so active, but we've had a couple of ladies here who were in the USO troops, you know, that went around the Pacific entertaining. Did you get any USO?
Yeah, we used to.
You did?
Yeah.
Yeah. Any headliners you remember that you saw?
Not that I remember, you know.
You didn't get to see Bob Hope, huh?
No, no. But we'd get to see a movie every once in a while, you know.
Right, right.
And other than that, that was about it, you know.
Kind of boring, huh?
Yeah, it was.
Very boring.
Wasn't nothing to do, you know. I mean, we couldn't go no place,
Nowhere to go.
nowhere to go.
Yeah, right.
As long as the war was on, we were restricted pretty well to the area where we were working and,
Sure.
and sleeping, you know.
Sure. Well, that's how. Do you remember how many how many planes you had there? Was it one squadron, or was it a number of squadrons, or what?
There were 2 different groups there. The 505th and the, I don't know whether it was the 504th or what it was. But the 505th was the one we were in, and we had 3 squadrons. 142nd, 43rd, and 44th, I think it was.
Okay.
And they each had, I'd say 15 or 20 planes, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And
Boy, that's a big crowd over there.
yes, it was.
Wow.
It was.
I have a friend lives out in Newtown who was in the 504th. He was a radar officer on a B-29.
Okay.
Yeah. So that kind of a boring time, and of course then you crossed your fingers, hoping that everybody would return,
Every time.
and you watched and counted and so forth and so on. And you noticed that they weren't all coming back.
Yep, that's right.
Good heavens, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, those were very, very,
It was
very,
sure
very,
sad day that none of ours didn't come back.
yeah, right.
They were on their 27th mission, I think.
Really?
And only had to fly 30.
Yeah.
And they were looking forward to it.
Of course. Where were they shot down?
Over Japan.
Over Japan, over the empire.
It was on fire, and the pilot gave to bail out,
Yeah, the order.
and the whole rear end got out, but none of the front.
Oh my goodness.
They all went with the plane.
And were some of them captured and
They were all captured.
and imprisoned?
One of them died in prison.
Oh my goodness.
But the funny, sad part of it is, one of the gunners didn't go on that mission, and he and another guy, neither one felt good, but Miller said to Red, he said, you take it this time and I'll take the next one. Well, then a service officer went on his place.
Oh.
And he went down with a plane and died in prison.
Oh my goodness.
And I guess Chuck Miller would like to send him over the hill.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, that would affect a person very
It would.
heavily, wouldn't it?
It really did.
Yes. Yes, I should say.
But the other 5 came back, and as far as I know, every one of them now is gone.
Yes, yes. Do you have reunions?
We
Is there-
did,
You
yeah.
do?
Yeah.
And you still have a pretty good number of groups?
I haven't gone to them. They have them in California or
Oh, yeah.
someplace, you know. And
Right.
my wife can't travel anymore, and so. But we went to Denver
Mm-hmm.
in '85, and all the ones that were in prison, except the
The one who had been
one
killed.
that died in prison, was there.
Oh.
That's the first time we had seen them since May of 44.
45.
40
44, yeah.
44.
Wow. That must have been a great reunion, though, to get together.
45. you're right,
45, yeah.
45.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, now, the end of the war, of course, came along, but tell me about working on a plane like that. What was it like?
Well, it wasn't too bad.
Uh-huh.
We all had enough experience, you know, to know what was what.
You were an engine mechanic?
Yeah, yeah. We had an electrician that worked with us, was on the crew, and 3 mechanics,
Mm-hmm.
and we took care of it all,
Right, right. Each plane,
each plane.
right.
We had one plane that we were responsible for, you know. what I mean?
Yes, right.
And that
That was your baby.
was our baby.
Yeah. Did she have nose art on her and everything, painting?
Yeah, they had, In the Mood is on the picture there that they
Yeah.
got. That was a name there for his mother, but it was a song of the
Glenn Miller.
Red Miller.
Yeah. In
the Mood.
Yeah, famous, still popular. As a matter of fact, if you, sometime if you write or call up there to the Air Force Museum, they'll send you a schedule, free of charge, of activities and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And not only do they have different things relating to the war and the museum itself, but they have an Air Force band up there that
Oh,
plays
really?
swing music of the era.
Of the era.
And as a matter of fact, 3 weeks ago, I took a friend up, and they had an hour and a half of Glenn Miller music. It was just wonderful.
Wonderful.
Just wonderful. So they've got all those kinds of activities. You'd enjoy that. Can your wife drive with you?
Oh, yeah.
You ought to go up there together sometime.
She's here at the library today.
Oh, good for her.
She's got a walker and
Uh-huh.
seat on it, and she gets
She
right.
should have been in here to prompt you. What's her name?
Catherine,
Catherine. What was her family name?
Glassbrenner.
Glassburner.
Good German name.
Boy, oh boy, I should say.
Yeah.
Well, that's very interesting. How long have you been married?
64 years.
64 years. Gosh sakes. Well, you must have been married fairly young, huh?
19.
19.
I
when you
was
got-
married before I went in.
Yeah. Oh, you were.
Yeah,
So you went off and left a wife.
yeah.
You didn't tell us about that. Give us a little.
Well, we were married. I got my induction paper and was inducted in February. And we were married February the 18th.
Knowing that you were going away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she got to join me one weekend in Biloxi, Mississippi. Her mother came down with her, and we stayed the weekend, and then they come back because I couldn't get off duty.
Of course.
And then when I was left Salt Lake City and went to Ardmore, I got an apartment down there, and she came down there and was there with me there.
Oh, that's nice.
And then she went to Harvard and got one in Harvard when they knew that I was shipping out.
Right.
And she got out there and got an apartment and was there with me there until I shipped out for overseas.
Oh, that's wonderful.
So we did get to spend
Sure.
time together, you know.
Sure. And then when you went over, you were apart for what, a year and a half?
No, just gone a year.
Just going on a year, right? Well, that was really very nice for you too, of course.
Yeah.
Because so many fellas, you know, I wasn't married when I was in the service, and and wherever we went, you know, we were always looking for a date or something if we had shore duty, you know. But you very luckily had a wonderful wife that was with you there.
My wife asked her dad, said, "What would you think about Chess and I getting married before he leaves?" And he said, "I'd think you were damn fools."
That sounds like a dad, doesn't it?
Doesn't it though?
My little girl.
I guess really we were, you know, I mean, because I had no idea what would happen.
Well, I know. You didn't have
Neither
anything, you know. All you had was each
But
other.
you know, look at it now, I think everything happened for the best.
Of course.
The way I was grounded and all,
Sure.
you never know.
Yes, you never know. Now, did you have children?
And a boy and a girl.
Boy and a girl. Wonderful.
Boy's 59, the girl's 56.
And they're nearby?
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
So you have grandchildren too?
Two grandchildren, a boy and a girl.
Oh, that's
Our
wonderful.
son never married.
Okay.
He's 59, never married.
Okay. Well, that's wonderful that you have, you know, you have a supportive family here too.
Yeah.
In your senior years. Going back to that base on Tinian, the last ship that I was on was a Jeep carrier, baby flat top, and we supported the landings at Tinian and Saipan and Guam in 1944, and of course I never got ashore, but we were 100 miles at sea.
Yeah.
So we couldn't even see the land, you know, because we'd send our planes off, and they'd go over and strafe and bomb, and then come back. And so I never got to see, never got to see any of those islands. But with that situation of you're preparing the planes, and of course you had to work with the armorer as well, don't you? Guys that would arm the guns and load the bombs and so forth. Was there any tense moments in that sort of an operation?
Never was.
Everything was very efficient.
Everyone had their job to do
Yeah.
and knew what they were doing and
Yeah.
done a good job on it, you know.
Now, by this time, were the Japanese still able to fly over and bomb? They
I
were.
think we were bombed twice. In Saipan, maybe a couple more times than
Right.
we were
Yeah.
after we got there.
Yeah. By that time,
It was.
they were pretty well
They were
wiped
getting
out,
on,
weren't
yeah,
they?
yeah.
Yeah.
Because we landed on December and we left in December.
I'll be darned.
So I was there a year.
Just
you
a
know.
year.
Just a year.
How about that? So you left in December of '45. That was after the war was over.
Yeah.
You didn't get to Japan itself. You weren't in the occupation
No.
forces or anything like that.
They took us up to show us what the planes had done, you know, damage.
Yeah.
And we got up the coast of Japan and lost an engine. And had to turn around and come back. Never got to see a thing. Never got to see a thing.
Oh my golly.
Then we landed on Iwo Jima, and they done the engine change, and they put us up for the night. Well, about 12:30 that night, they come and woke us up. Another plane had landed to get gas, and they piled us in with the other plane
Oh, I see.
and brought us back. We got back, they had our luggage all packed up and the bed turned over, you know, like on that. Oh, Lord.
Oh, my. Well, you...
They knew what happened, you know,
Oh,
that
yeah.
we had stopped for gas.
Sure, sure. What kind of fuel capacity did that plane have? Do you remember? There must have been thousands and thousands of gallons.
I think it was 3,000 gallon tanks.
3,000 gallon
I
tank.
think that's what it was.
Wow.
They were neoprene, you know, about so thick
Yeah.
that they held a lot of gas.
Oh, they sure did. They sure did. Well, that in itself, and that's what a lot of people don't understand or realize, of course, you know, not only did you have a huge, big, heavy plane, but then you had all this equipment, and then you had to have the fuel to maintain your flight,
Right,
and the ammunition to maintain the guns,
that's right.
and
There's a lot of
it
weight
must
on
have
that.
been a tremendous weight.
I know our engineer used to say, every bounce, he'd say, this is it, you know, he'd think it was airborne. He says, when you look out and see no more, nothing but water, he says, you know it's it then.
Oh, boy.
But he said, boy, it took all the runway, you know, to
Sure.
get them up.
8,500 feet. My goodness, my goodness. What was the top speed that baby could fly at?
I think it was around 200,
Uh-huh. Boy,
180 to 200,
Yeah.
I think is what they said.
and carrying a load like that, that was a...
They'd go to altitude and then lean it back, you know, and go in and drop their bombs, and then they'd go to altitude, and then
You'd have to
then
enrich
they're
it.
coming back to save
Yeah,
gas.
how about that? Now, I've talked to several guys who said, well, at one point we were flying on fumes, you know, nothing left.
Nothing left.
Just lucky to be able to
Be able to get there.
come back and to be able to land. Well, that's really something, CB. I just thank you so much for your telling us about that. Any other funny stories you can think of that your family and your grandchildren might like to hear about? Yeah.
Well, that's where the atomic bomb was loaded from.
That's right, Tinian.
We had a revetment that was in a curve. It come up and like this, and our revetment was here, and another one was here, and they went in here like that and made another revetment
Uh-huh.
and put a pit in it,
Oh,
like you'd raise a car on, you know?
sure, and get underneath it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and that's where the atomic bomb was made.
that's where they loaded it.
We
Just-
watched them. We sat right there and watched them build it and load it, and
No kidding.
didn't know what it was till
Yeah.
Tokyo rose. The next
Sure.
morning said that they dropped a atomic bomb on Hiroshima.
Yeah. Well, do you know the story about the USS Indianapolis, the heavy cruiser that carried the bomb
Carried
over
it
there,
over.
you know, to Tinian, and then after, you know, she was on her way to Leyte Gulf, and
Yeah,
that's when she got torpedoed.
torpedo.
But that, the secrecy was very, very tight, wasn't it?
Sure was. We didn't-
Security.
Yeah,
I mean, you guys couldn't even know about
we
it.
didn't even know that.
No, you were in the force.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that 509th Bomb Group came in, and we had 4 taxi strips across from one way to the other, you know, and
Sure.
to the taxi. And we were sitting in there one day, and here come this plane in, and as soon as he hit the runway, it looked like he stopped. He turned off the first and came over and up the taxi strip. And we didn't know what it was, and here they had reverse pitch props on it.
Uh-huh.
As soon as he hit the ground, they hit the props, and that thing just stopped like that.
Oh, my God.
And that's the one that dropped the atomic bomb.
No kidding.
So
How about that?
Enola Gay.
Yeah, August 1945.
Yep.
Well, that, of course, you know, up to that point, all of us had been looking at the fact that we were probably going to invade Japan.
Yeah.
And it was truly
Blessing.
a blessing, I should say. And you know, the people today who, you know, get out and parade on
Yeah.
Hiroshima Day and
Yeah.
all that sort of thing, they just don't understand.
They don't.
They really don't understand.
Think how many men would have been lost.
Absolutely.
Both ours and theirs.
Oh yeah, and Japanese civilians, because they were determined, they were
That's
dug
right.
in, you know, they
That's
were
right.
going to die for the emperor.
That's right.
Oh my goodness, I know. It's a very, very important point. And have you ever talked to any school groups or anything like that, told your story?
One time I went to grandfather's
Oh yeah,
day at school, and
right.
I told him about that.
All right, good for you.
And that was,
Well, this is, you know, and this ties in with our project here. It's so important that we get the story out, because you know, we're shuffling off pretty fast.
That's
They're up
right.
to 3,000 a day now.
That's
World War
right.
II veterans are dying, and well, we're all up in our 80s and more. You know,
I'll be 84 and it's 25th of this month.
well, good for you. Well, you're in great shape, and do you keep active around home? What do you do?
Well,
Upkeep of the house and so forth?
yard and a house.
Yeah,
The garden, a little bit of garden.
yeah. You do any mechanics anymore at all?
No, not very much.
Don't work on your own
I
car?
work on some of my own equipment, you know.
Yeah, right.
But most of that, I went out when it was opening the airport,
Yeah,
and they told me it was too early, you know. They weren't taking the application.
oh, okay.
And I got into the tile trade, and I never went back out.
I'll be done.
And I always wonder if I had been better off.
I know.
You know.
We all
Because that was all.
have moments like that.
Yeah.
Well, listen, CB, it's just been a wonderful experience to have you here and to meet you and and learn about you. And as we say, that this is now on record, and that's important, because people will be able, generations even after we're gone,
Well, that's
to
great.
learn about CB and what he did in the war, and that's very important. I want to thank you so much for the honor
Thank
of
you.
being with you. God bless, keep well, and you and your wife have a good time.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Very much.